Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in to what's going to be a review of the new Smashbox Gloss Angeles lip glosses. A couple weeks back they sent me every shade in this new collection, so I'm not only going to be reviewing them, also comparing them to another newly launched lip gloss that I recently talked about here on the channel, but I'm also going to be swatching every single shade in this collection for you guys. So we got a lot going on, let's go ahead and dive in. So first, starting off with the product details, each one of these retails for $19 individually. There are 13 total shades in the collection. 6 of those have some sort of glitter or shimmer in them, and the rest are cream finishes. These are meant to be buildable, so you can either get a somewhat sheer coverage, just a hint of tint and a high shine gloss to the lips, or you can build them to medium coverage, but nowhere in here does it promise to be like fully opaque, total coverage of the lips. It also says the formula has lots of, good for you ingredients like hyaluronic acid and vitamin E to plump your lips and keep them feeling soft and hydrated throughout the day. And then it also promises a non-sticky finish. In general, I really like the formula. It really is a non-sticky gloss. And even though, like any gloss, it's going to transfer onto things, I've actually been drinking as I've been getting ready to film this video. I have been, just sipping on things, and you can see there's transfer here, but it's still very opaque, very shiny. This particular shade that I'll talk about later has some sparkles in it that are still very much intact, and it's not like smudging or bleeding anywhere. So for something that's not supposed to be super long lasting, it has a good amount of longevity, which is really good, and yet it doesn't have that sticky texture. They are very layerable. This is one of the more pigmented shades, and although it's not totally opaque, I could have gone a little bit lighter for something sheer, but I chose to build it up, and I do notice that that helps the pigment last a little bit longer as it comes off as I'm eating and drinking throughout the day. But one thing that I like in a formula that's layerable like this is that you can apply it thinly and it's not going to look streaky. A lot of the times with really pigmented glossy products that I've had experience with anyway, is that if you don't build them up fully, you get a little bit of streakiness or messiness. It looks like it's kind of bleeding everywhere because you haven't covered everything fully. And it's not the case at all with these, maybe because most of these feel like they're set in a clear but still very pigmented jelly. It's more of a tint versus a total like creamy opaque finish, if that makes sense. The other thing, and I talked about this with other formulas in the past, but with a creamier or more opaque lip gloss, sometimes what I've had happen is that the pigment separates from the glossy medium that it's in, and that's not anything that I experienced with these either, which is awesome. The shade range, I think you'll see when I swatch these, I feel like it could be more. I like this formula a lot, so I would have liked a broader shade range. There was a big focus on light nudes and light pinks, and really only a handful of pops of color and some really pretty but not a whole lot of some beautiful glittery shades. And so I really just would have liked to see like some deeper nudes, more orangey corals. There's a beautiful purple in this collection that I think they could have expanded upon there. And I mean, of all the complaints to have, it's certainly not the worst out there, but yeah, I really would have loved to see like a little bit more variety in this color selection. Now, before I get into the swatches, I do want to compare them to the Wet n Wild Liquid Catsuit High Shine lip glosses. I just reviewed and swatched these here on the channel, so you can go check that video out if you want to. And I realized that there are a lot of similarities between these formulas, but the Wet n Wild are $4.99 and the Smashbox are obviously $19. So I thought it would be worth pointing out some of those similarities and differences, just in the event that you're looking for a high shine, very pigmented glossy product. Depending on what all you're after in a product, you might be able to save some of your hard-earned dollars and go with a more affordable formula. So both formulas are great. I think the biggest similarities between the two are the fact that they give you high pigmentation with a very glossy texture. The Wet n Wild Catsuits are more pigmented, I would say. They are like a full coverage gloss, whereas the Smashbox, like they say, is a buildable light to medium. So the Wet n Wild, if I could describe it, are more of that totally opaque cream finish, whereas the Smashbox, like I mentioned before, is like that heavily tinted but still transparent jelly texture. And then also the Smashbox, there are some really complexly pigmented shades in here that have glitter in them, and the Catsuit collection is entirely cream finish. In terms of shades across both collections that are close enough to be considered dupes, I think I have found a few, like 2.5, maybe 3 that are close, and they all fall in that light nude, light pink sort of shade range grain simply because that is where it felt like Smashbox heavied up in theirs, because the more colorful and glittery shades are obviously pretty unique compared to the Wet n Wild. But I did find a few that are very close. So first up is the shade Send Nudes from the Liquid Catsuit collection from Wet n Wild. It's pretty similar to the shade Beachy Keen from the Smashbox collection. Then there is Peach Stole My Look from the Catsuit collection, which is similar to Sorbet Watch from the Smashbox collection. And this last one is the one that's not quite identical, but might get the job done if you're willing to accept the differences between the two. And that is the Catsuit shade called Flirt Alert compared to the Smashbox shade called OBVI. And I think the biggest difference between the two is that the Smashbox shade is more mauve. It's a little bit cooler, a little bit more purple toned, whereas Flirt Alert has a more of a pink element to it. It's a little bit brighter, but not by much, especially once it's on your lips. It's pretty similar. Beyond that though, the Smashbox collection is pretty unique. So that's pretty much all I have to say about those. Let's go ahead and get into the lip swatches. First, starting off with the shade Beachy Keen. This is a light to mid-tone nude with a cream finish, and it has a slightly cool undertone, especially as compared to the other more true light nude shade here in this collection, which, speaking of, is the shade 72 and Honey. And I think you can see by comparison here, the shades are very similar. 72 and Honey, again, is a lighter nude shade, but it leans more warm compared to Beachy Keen, giving you a slightly more orange undertone. Next up is the shade Sorbet Watch, and it is a light pink, but definitely has some peachy undertones that I think you'll be able to tell in looking at the other light pinks in here. This is easily the most peach of them. There is a peach tone that's slightly deeper and far more orange than this, but in terms of the pinks in this collection, this is going to be the one that is more warm and orange leaning. Speaking of another lighter pink, Surf Bunny is up next, and this on the site is described as a coral pink, but compared to the shade Sorbet Watch, I think Surf Bunny has a lot more pink in it. And it's also not totally a cream finish shade. If you look closely enough, there are some very subtle peachy shimmers in there, but I don't think once it's on the lips, it really comes off nearly as shimmery, especially compared to some of the other outright glittery shades in this collection. Next up is the shade that leans a little bit more cooler. It is OBVI MAUVI, and this, like the name suggests, is a mauve, but it is a light, soft mauve. It's also a pretty true cream finish. In fact, I would say it's like the softer sister to the next shade I'm going to talk about, which is Celeb Sighting, and this is more of a berry mauve. It's a little bit deeper, lacks the soft subtleness that OBVI MAUVI has, but brings in a little bit more depth and also has that same cream finish to it. Next up is Self Promotion, and this is a shade that I feel like they could have expanded on with a few different variations in this collection because it's this gorgeous cream finish purple, almost like a toned down fuchsia purple, but I would have loved to see this with some sort of glitter combination, maybe a little bit deeper, more vibrant, because this leans more towards pastel. I just really love this and hope they make more shades in this collection in the future. Then there is the shade Acai You Girl, which is a bright, vivid berry, also a cream finish, and this is one of those shades where it really made me realize that it's less of an opaque finish like the Wet n Wild Catsuit and more almost like a jelly finish. And this is one of the shades that I feel like was most high shine on me. Like, I felt like it really did a good job at making my lips look a little bit fuller, a little bit more plump, because there is something about this shade, maybe the pigment in particular, and that high shine finish that just really made my lips pop a little bit more. Then there is A Poppy, which, as you could probably guess, is a pretty bright, vivid poppy. And in the tube and actually on the lips, I think it comes off as more of a cream finish, but when you look online, it looks like there are pretty strong gold flecks in there. And there definitely are. Like, when you look in the tube, and you'll probably be able to see it on my lips as well, there are some definite golden sparkles in there, but they are nowhere near as dense as I think you'll see in the other more outright glittery shades in this collection. Speaking of, let's start moving moving into those, starting with the shade Actors Guild, which is an amber with what they describe as a multi-tonal pearl. The shades that I'm getting in here are gold and bronze, like a pinky leaning bronze and an orangey leaning bronze. It's just a really multifaceted glitter in here. And the thing with most of these glittery shades is that the base is pretty clear. It's only very slightly tinted, and you really notice the glitter more so in these than you do with the other more pigmented shades. So these for me tend to be more of a lip topper because my lips, especially if I have foundation on them, aren't all that pigmented. I need just a little bit of extra something or other underneath to add some color to my look, unless I'm going with a real bold smoky eye, and then this might be the only thing I wear. But for the most part, the base with these is pretty sheer. This next shade is called Hustle and Glow, and it has some of the most gorgeous shimmer of all of the lip glosses in this collection. It's like a duo, almost a trichrome shimmer. It has a rose gold base with a trichrome shimmer, and it shifts from anywhere from purpley blue to green to pink, and that'll definitely shift depending on what you apply it over. On my lips, when I'm not wearing anything underneath, it tends to pull more pink, so I will pair this if I'm wearing it alone with some, like maybe even the eyes that I have today, and it just comes off as this really pretty pink iridescence. Then, speaking of what I'm wearing today, the shade that is on my lips right now is called Traffic Jam, and this is a cream bold berry base, but it has this, again, a very multi-dimensional glitter. It might actually be the same one that is in Hustle and Glow, because I see shifts between bronzy gold, green, and even purple in there. And this obviously has a much more pigmented base to it, but if you go a little bit lighter with the application, that glitter and shimmer really starts to come out, and you get a more multi-dimensional lip from it. Next up is the shade Michelada, which is a rusty orange base with two tones of glitters in here. There is kind of a matching orangey, rusty glitter along with a cooler and almost lighter orangey sort of glitter. Maybe it's even silver. Maybe there are three. It's just multiple different shades as opposed to one type of glitter that shifts depending on the angle you look at it. There are definitely 2 to 3 different colors of glitters in here that create a really pretty multi-dimensional effect. And then the last lip is the shade Sheen Rider, and this is a hot fuchsia with another multi-chromal glitter that goes anywhere from fuchsia to green to blue. It's almost like they use the same glitter in the other 2 shades that I mentioned and then just put it in different bases, which I am not mad at because I absolutely love the shift of this glitter. But this too is in one of those more pigmented bases, so you can layer it up to get something a little bit more opaque and fuchsia feeling, or you can do a light gloss across the lips and really play up the glittery shimmer that is in these formulas. Those are the last of the shades, but the one other thing that I have to note, especially about or specifically about the glitter formulas, is that the glitters do get left behind on your lips. It's not obnoxious, it's not everywhere like some gloss formulas or lipstick formulas can be, where once the pigment's gone, you just have tons of tiny fine shimmer left all over your lips and like in your fine lines and stuff. It's not that bad, but just know that as I was wiping all of these off, as I have worn them throughout the day, you know, go through eating and drinking and watch them wear off naturally, the last thing I find is always just an ultra fine layer of glitter across my lips. It's not impossible to remove, it takes some scrubbing, but just know, you know, because you're getting into the realm of glitter here, like any glitter in makeup, it doesn't always go away. You might still continue to find it for days, weeks, years to come. You just never know. So those are my thoughts on this collection. I really hope this review in comparison to the Catsuit collection was useful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys!